Welcome back to another Unpeeled Webisode. And while music fans will have to wait to see live concerts again in person, YouTube TV last week released the highly anticipated documentary Coachella 20 Years in the Desert. Featuring over 7 years of unreleased footage and exclusive interviews, the documentary detailed Coachella's rise from hopeful startup to major cultural event. Joining us now with their thoughts on this documentary is really just an entire main stage group of reporters, a little Coachella documentary reference for you there. Our Unpeeled music reporter, Skyler Rivera, industry reporter, Sam Lebowitz, and film reporter, Andrew Goldberg. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. I'm so excited to talk about this documentary.
Yeah,
Thanks for having us on.
It's going to be great, yeah.
All right, so Skyler, I want to start with you. You're the music reporter. We got to get your initial thoughts on this documentary. Beyond just being a fan of music, I know you're a fan of Coachella. So what were your initial thoughts about Coachella 20 Years in the Desert?
It was absolutely incredible. So, like you said, Liam, I love Coachella. I'm from California. I went to 2018 Coachella, known as Baychella. So this documentary really hit close to home. My brother's been going to Coachella for about 12 years. So I grew up listening to Daft Punk, A-Track, Chromeo, and all these great bands that had played at Coachella before. So it was just really cool to see how, like you said, Coachella grew from this tiny festival that nobody really knew if it was going to make any money to a cultural phenomenon. It was a great documentary. You got to see those exclusive interviews, some great behind-the-scenes stuff.
Absolutely. And you hinted that it wasn't initially an immediate financial success. So Sam, I want to turn over to you, get some industry thoughts on this. Was Coachella, why did it have so much issues at the beginning, not being quite a financial success?
Well, actually, in the beginning, it wasn't a financial success at all. In fact, they didn't make money until their fourth or fifth time around. The first Coachella was in 1999, and they actually lost close to $1 million in that first year. So Coachella really was struggling for a while, and they didn't even know this company, the concert promoter, Golden Voice, who started it. They didn't even know if they were going to be able to have a second one. They even skipped their second year. They started in 99. They didn't have one in 2000, and they went back to it in 2001 because they had gotten some financial help from some companies. But as it happens, they started to get better and better acts as things went along, and they finally turned a profit all the way in 2004, so 5 years after the first Coachella. And it took big, huge acts like Radiohead and the Pixies that year to get them off the ground, where they were finally starting to make some money. And now, obviously, they no longer just have the one weekend. Now they have 2 weekends every year, and they routinely sell out.
Yeah, so you talk about it being financially in very bad spots to start out, 20 years later being one of the greatest music festival success stories ever, like in any music festivals that we've had to talk about. So Andrew, I got to get your film thoughts on this. This is such a great story, but a lot of this footage had not seen the light until now. How did all of this come together?
Well, you're right. This has been a very long time in the making. The film was directed by noted documentarian Chris Perkel, and he first had the idea to do a Coachella documentary back in 2013 after he found a huge catalog of unused footage, and he spent the past 7 years putting it together and sort of interspersing it with as many interviews as he could get with some very high-profile musicians and promoters and other people involved in the festival. And they're sort of figuring out the best way to show the story in one fluid motion. And originally they wanted to do a docu-series of 10 different episodes, but they decided to just go for one straight run, 100 minutes, all on YouTube, free to watch. Like Skyler said earlier, it's got great footage of tons of great bands and artists performing, interviews that tell all the interesting behind-the-scenes stories about how Coachella started when it was coming up and eventually, morphed into something that we all know now as a major event. So I think it's definitely worth watching.
Absolutely. And Skyler, I want to turn back to you. Coachella, obviously, over the course of 20 years has grown, as you mentioned, Andrew and Sam, before, that it was initially 1 week and it was losing a bunch of money, and now it's 2 weekends, and it's changing everything we know about festivals. How exactly did Coachella transform the festival scene?
Coachella is a complete game changer for festivals. I mean, people thought Golden Voice was crazy for holding a festival just a year after Woodstock literally burned to the ground. And so the people at Golden Voice did a great job at visiting all the festivals, the different raves across the pond in Europe, to really create this mixing pot of all these genres. I mean, like this year's lineup, you have Frank Ocean, Rage Against the Machine, you have an indie band, and you have DJs, people from south of the border. Like, it's a really great mixing pot of all these genres that appeal to all different types of people. It's absolutely incredible. There's nothing like it.
100%. And you mentioned how there's so many different styles, obviously going to bring people in from all across the globe. And one thing I noticed in this documentary was that's when this festival started to transform of just being a California festival to now being a global entity. So Sam, I want to get your thoughts. When and why did Coachella really start to make money and escape that financial situation they were in to begin with?
Well, I kind of alluded to it earlier, but 2004 was the first year where things really started to pick up for them. And like I said, that was because of really they finally got their big time headliners like Radiohead. 2006, on the other hand, was when they got their first huge global star, when they got Madonna to headline the main stage. And over the years, we've seen that evolution from these big kind of legacy acts like Madonna to acts like Travis Scott or The Weeknd or Beyonce, who are maybe more popular in their own era rather than spanning over a few eras. Maybe not Beyonce, maybe that's a bad example. But it also took some financial help because Golden Voice really nearly went under for a long time. And as a concert promoting company, they kind of were reliant on the groups in their area in Los Angeles and the venues to kind of book them. And when the Staples Center, which is where the Lakers play, was constructed in the early 2000s, they actually were lucky enough to cut a deal with the Staples Center. So they had kind of a constant stream of money by booking shows at the Staples Center. And they got financial help from Lollapalooza, which is another big festival. So there was a lot of kind of an influx of help, an influx of money that kind of allowed them to keep going, and until they were finally able to start booking these stars and finally able to kind of perfect how they wanted to have their own concert. And it really just evolved from the mid 2000s when they were booking these big acts, and more people started to show up.
You talk about the financial success that Coachella is now. One thing that might not be a financial success is this documentary, because Andrew, as you mentioned, it is free to watch on YouTube. Why the decision to make it free to watch on YouTube for really anyone that has internet access, rather than partner with, say, a Hulu or a Netflix who made the documentaries about Fire Festival in the past? Why go this free route?
Right. So it's kind of a different financial model than the traditional, paying for the film rights, because before the events of, COVID-19, YouTube TV had actually struck a deal with Coachella to be the exclusive live stream partner for both weekends of the festival. So the way it was going to work was YouTube TV would broadcast Coachella, put it on the airwaves for everyone to watch at home. And in exchange, Coachella would give YouTube TV all the rights to their past footage that was unused. So they sort of worked it out in a different way, where YouTube was doing a great job of promoting the concerts, and then Coachella in exchange would give YouTube great material for a documentary. And, looking at YouTube TV overall, they're one of the biggest and really one of the few streamers to actually focus on live content as opposed to like pre-recorded scripted dramas. And they've had a really strong history of producing documentaries, especially on musicians. Looking through the past, they've done stuff with Katy Perry, Demi Lovato, Johnny Cash. So this is not their first time working in something like this. And honestly, even besides all that, the spirit of Coachella is just about getting artists recognized and getting the music out there. So I feel like the filmmakers behind this really just wanted their project to be seen. And honestly, I don't know if they would have wanted to force people to pay for this. I think maybe they would have wanted people to just see it so they could experience Coachella for themselves, no matter where they are. I mean, unfortunately, I wasn't able to go to Coachella at all, unlike, Skyler and her family, but I would love to have seen it, in person. But since I can't do that, I'll be able to watch this documentary and feel like I was there.
I couldn't have said it better myself. One thing I felt when I was watching it was, man, I would love to be there in person and experience this event, because while the documentary does a great job showcasing it, being there is a whole nother experience. So I want to open it up to everyone now. We'll go Skyler, Sam, then Andrew. Who would you like to see? You're going to Coachella and you get to book the lineup. Who would you like to see at the Coachella you attend in the future? Skyler, we'll start with you.
Let's see. I'm a huge Anderson .Paak fan, so let's have Anderson .Paak headlining day one on Friday. I would like to bring back Frank Ocean, get a little Simp Saturday going on. And then maybe ended up with, I'm a big Chromeo fan. They were so early 2000s, but I mean, Coachella's had Paul McCartney headline. They've had Rage Against the Machine. I would throw Chromeo in there for day three. Just wrap it up. So that's my 3 headline Coachella.
Ooh, okay. Following that up, that's tough. I am not like the biggest like pop music guy. So I'm trying to think of who I would like go with. I think I gotta go with like a classic like Blink-182 kind of thing in there. I think that would be like a really great headliner. Just watching the documentary, the Daft Punk show that they showed looked insane, and I do like some Daft Punk, so I think that would be a good one, kind of a change of pace to follow Blink-182. And I don't know on that third one. That's tough on that third one. We'll go with the Queen. We'll go with Beyonce because she looked like her show was insane, like one of the best live performances I think I've ever seen, and I didn't even see it live. I watched it in the documentary, so.
I transcended my body. It was an out-of-body experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when she had her Coachella performance go on Netflix last year, that was like a total game changer for how everyone wanted to do documentaries in the future, because people, like you said, felt like they were really there. So Beyonce's a great choice, and both of you had a lot of very strong options to choose from, so it's not going to be easy. I'll say this, I'll give 3 like modern performers and then 3 performers from the past that I would love to see come back. Today, modern, I've got to go with your guy, The Weeknd, but also seeing Kendrick Lamar live, and yeah, I would say Anderson .Paak also. They have all such a great combination of like, rap and like lyrics and just funk. It makes you feel like, you want to dance and get up. But also like Coachella is such a big event that I would love if some of like the bigger performers from like the 90s and early 2000s came back to do it. Like if Outkast, Dr. Dre, and I mean Kanye is sort of both eras, but if you got that grouping in there, I would guarantee the crowd would go absolutely crazy. So get a little old, a little new in there, you'd have an amazing concert.
For me personally, I have to agree with The Weeknd. He would be my headliner. But in the spirit of Coachella, my indie choice would be an up-and-coming rapper named Ian Dior. I think he's going to be phenomenal one day. Right now, he's still building up his resume, but he would be a great Friday show. And then with the spirit of that rage, that funk music, the instrumentals, I would love to see an Avicii tribute. I would love to see
nice.
whoever that they can get, bring people together and play some of his best songs. I think that'd be a really cool nod to Avicii. Also, Swedish House Mafia. I love a lot of their stuff. When I was watching the documentary, I was surprised. I was like, wait, I recognize all that. Oh, that's Swedish House Mafia. It's crazy to see how it all comes together. But that's going to do it for this week's Unpeeled webisode on the Coachella documentary. If you do want to check it out, it is free on YouTube. So just give it a search, and you can watch it right here on this platform. Skyler, Sam, Andrew, thank you so much for joining me. Be sure to check out the Unpeeled podcast as well. That is also up on CitrusTV's YouTube channel. And above all else, stay safe and stay healthy, and we'll see you guys soon.